Okay, I think we are being picked up. So we're here again, yet another week with Mackenzie McCoy. Hi, how are
Hi.
you? And we've got a hour of a bit of a talk between Mackenzie and I, as well as some of you who may be joining live or in recording will be able to enjoy the show. Today we have a topic of 3D warehouse. I guess in parentheses we have SketchUp to Revit workflow that we would like to talk about. There are a few things that we do want to talk about beforehand as we go into the main topic. But since SketchUp 2025 is released, it's been a while actually, but I finally upgraded my machine for 2025 with all the main extensions installed, and also we're going to be using that to be most current. And same thing for Revit. I think in previous shows I have used Revit 2024 mainly, so I'll be up to speed at a current year of 2025 version of Revit as well. So I think that way everybody's most current in most aspects. There are also features that I would like to cover on 2025 version of SketchUp that was introduced, and I think many of them are quite nice, and we may inevitably touch them as we speak about the workflows later on. But Mackenzie, have you had any look of 2025 version of SketchUp at all?
I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I'm actually very excited to hear about any of the differences that you've noticed or
Mm-hmm.
anything that you actually know about. Yeah, and if it's actually like big changes or if this is more like an update, because I feel like that happens with some programs where it's sometimes just little updates and tweaks, but
Yep, yep,
it'd be
yep.
cool. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think it's nice to have sort of the fresh eyes and sort of the first
Yeah.
look from yourself rather than me, having to play a little bit, getting a live sort of feedback from you would be definitely appreciated as well. And I'm sure some people who's watching the show will feel the same way. So I think it's good to have your reaction there. But last week we were a little busy, and we just kind of postponed it to this week to speak about the 3D warehouse workflow. The reason for this was because there's the general workflow of, I think we explained it not last week, but the week before, general workflow of going from SketchUp to Revit, of from kind of concept schematic into the more construction documents workflow. So catch on that. If you guys haven't seen that video yet or podcast yet, then it's available on the last episode that we did together. Um, but this is more of a Revit sort of workflow. So I want to speak for people who's more focused on Revit workflow and getting some SketchUp model to themselves, or trying to look for some entourages or what we call as a Revit folks families to
Mhm.
use in your model. And often, so think of you'll face this scenario quite often as you model away on Revit, is that you have a residential or commercial project and you just want to put simple tables and chair within your living room or lobby space or something like that, and you just don't have a good enough families to put in. There's a lot, as we discussed in Revit on the last episode, was that for you to make something, you have to fill in a lot of parameters. Uh, Unlike what you do on SketchUp side. Again, I'm drawing a little bit of a comparison, but for Revit specific purpose or workflow wise, you have to create a family and then you have to put parameters for the family for either height, width, depth, so that you can actually change them interactively. You have to assign all of those reference lines and reference planes and be able to put in instance type of parameters if you know how to do them. So coming up with those type of parameters all the time, even for very basic cube type of modeling. For tables and chairs, all you really need in a lot of cases is that you just want a space, and yes, you can have a room tag that says living room, but instead of that, or if it's a restaurant, say cafe or restaurant space, instead of just labeling it as what the room type is or room name is, you do want to have a little bit of representation of how many tables and chairs are supposed to be in there. So you want to just draw squares and rectangles to represent where they are and how big they are, that sort of thing in your plan. But I mean, off the whim, you can just draw detailed line of rectangles and tables and chairs with your straight lines, but it'll be nice to be able to actually quantify them later or have a bit better representation than detail lines that gets pushed away as you move some things aside, or um, have a family that can be represented somewhat correctly, or even schedule them later. And having a graphical representation a bit better than rectangles or detail line is a little more troubling, I would say, on the Revit side, because you don't have a big library or repository full of assets that are kind of simple and usable. And the trouble that I find in Revit side is that there's Revit City, bimobjects.com. There's some libraries and some people frowned upon because of its complexity, not sure of the source, and
Hmm.
you have to go into different unverified source of website or information, and you have to make your own account and that sort of thing. You go through hooves to find some of these families that are already made, but often you bring these families and there's so much unnecessary parameters. Like you just want simple tables and chairs, but you end up with this very complicated looking tables and chairs with a lot of materials on, a lot of junks. It has links to the website or manufacturer and has these model names that you don't recognize and you don't know what it is. Right now, you're not so sure of the exact material type. You're not sure of a manufacturer. You're not sure of the model type or specification. All you need is just tables and chairs representation in your plan. So that's the scenario that I'm kind of leading to. And you just want some blob in there to be representative of the space. So I'm just using tables and chairs as a kind of basic example, but it could be
Hmm.
sofa, it could be a TV, it could be for, let's say, commercial spaces, it could be office furniture like desks, rolling chair, shelves, that sort of thing. One thing to note is 3D Warehouse has a lot of those aspects, but they are still the same amount of junks that you may not want in your model. So, but you can see them quite easily, and there's no embedded parameters and information within them. Meaning, once you download them and port it into Revit, all the manufacturer data, specifications, material complexity, all of those are not translated. So it gets somewhat cleaned out and filtered. And all of those additional parameters that you don't want in your Revit model are controlled, or in
Hmm.
family are controlled because of this kind of transition. So all you get is really 3D geometry off of 3D Warehouse that is somewhat representative of what you're kind of thinking. And often, if it is close enough, you can just move on with it. Um, so you just bring that in as a family and then place it in your model and get done with it. So that's sort of the idea that I'm headed for. I probably didn't explain that entirely clear or somewhat complex. So let me just kind of show you what my scenario and representation is. Any questions so far, by the way?
I mean, on my end, I think you described it pretty darn well. Because all I could think about was whenever you're kind of doing like a little bit of the test fit ideas or just drawing out some general concepts, and to be able to have something to just place there and not have it as the heaviness, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that makes sense.
All right. So you see my shared screen here. So
I
this is
do.
a bless you.
Thank you.
So this is a representation, I guess, simple sort of residential townhouse model that I have made together.
That's great. Yeah.
This used to be my house, so I just kind of
Uh-huh.
made it all kind of put together and came up with some more detailed plan. But often you want living room like this, and mind you, these are Enscape assets, so they just come in kind of nicely. And again,
Mm-hmm.
Enscape library is a library that you can certainly use for assets for placing these furnitures. But let's say you just don't have any of those available. You could find and use some assets like this off of your Autodesk given family that comes with when you first start a project. So, for example, if you were to start a default family, default project, it comes with some families in there. So here you can see, I believe for years they have like desks. Let me
Yeah. They almost
see.
always have a toilet.
Yeah, it has some countertop. It has this default desk.
How funny.
Yeah, so you could put a desk, but inevitably you put in a desk that doesn't look like anything like what you intend it to be. So I don't know who uses this kind of desk anymore, but it's been years that the same type of desk, and also there are different kinds, and nobody's sure what's the difference between that one and that one. I guess that's the size, but
Besides, yeah,
what's
but
the difference
students.
between this one versus this one? And there are some parametric data in there. Sometimes you can just look up the properties and see maybe the body, they look identical. So again, these are some of additional information that you don't need at all until you're really ironed out in terms of your specification and selection of your furnitures and such. And again, good luck finding other type of things that can go with it. There is a desk and a chair, I guess you can use for basic representation, but that's fine. But when you want to do living room table, dining table, or restaurant tables and chairs, those are not available as a default in Revit. Therefore, now you're going to have to go out on a hunt for
Mm-hmm.
finding something is represented. Let's say we want a sofa. Actually, maybe is there a sofa? No, no sofa. Chair. This
Same
armchair is
chair.
all you get. So no restaurant chairs, no dining room chair kind of thing.
Bar
So
stools.
so let's say I want a sofa here, and let's say I didn't have that, and also here's a countertop island that I put in, but I want dining table and chair set here. Now I can go about finding a family that's somewhat like this, so that I can put it in there, or um, I'll go to website like bimobjects.com or Revit City, those type of
Mm-hmm.
website I can go and look for. Or I guess a lot of times what we end up doing is just putting a detail line and then okay,
Yep.
well let's do
Build
that.
regions,
Fill,
grouping it.
yeah, and then now do a little nice thing and then now group that so that I can repeat it somewhere. And
Yep.
again, that's fine for that moment, but do you really want to? And
Yeah.
maybe I mean, yes, when time is at stake, you gotta do that kind of thing. And we've all been there and done that, and that's fine for sometimes. But sometimes you want to do a little more than this, or even for later rendering purposes, when you look at things in 3D, you want to make sure those are actually shown as like
Mm-hmm.
some sort of a blob in your rendering. So bringing them into a 3D model would be somewhat useful too. So let me do a section box here, and then let me just show you what that looks like. Obviously, where I had placed, this is the second floor, so let me go further down in there. Ones that came from Enscape has somewhat representation of this
Yeah.
countertop is gone, but the sofa and the person there is kind of there.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah.
obviously, because I put detail on, it's not there, and obviously, I won't be able to cut a section or elevation and expect that to show up on there.
Hmm.
So, how do we kind of solve that problem? As I have mentioned, we can go to the 3D warehouse, and it's 3dwarehouse.sketchup.com. You do not need a SketchUp license in order to utilize this. That's a good side, and but you do need an account with SketchUp. You can make a free account, and you can still download. I think there might be some limitations in how many models you can download per given time. I'm not clear on whether
Okay.
that limit is where that limit is, but I've heard there may be a limit. I am a SketchUp license owner, I don't have that limit. So without research, I'm not able to tell you what is the limit. But here we can go ahead and look for, let's say, sofa, for example. The things that you want to kind of look for, and SketchUp does pretty good job of presenting their verified type of
Yeah.
content up here, and they do have a couple more parameters applied to them. So where they have these live tags, meaning they have variations in, so you can go ahead and configure that type of set or something like that to suit your needs. But oftentimes, so you can tweak the height. I don't
That's
think
cool.
I don't know if this is all that necessary, but what I'm going for is a simple sofa set, or perhaps sectional armchair here, for example. But you can absolutely use other individual provided type of sofas or any furnitures. In just There's just really limitless amount of stuff here. You can search by popularity. Something that I do is I put a filter so that you limit things by file size as well, so that you don't
That's
end
smart.
up importing something too
That's an
heavy or
entire world.
right, and something that is kind of simple enough. Because honestly, for a sofa, 10 megabytes, do you really want all of that? Right? So you want something simple enough, simple representation of what you're trying to do. Probably this type of thing will suffice. Even if it's a blobby thing, I would have accepted that too. Again, this is
Hmm.
a very simplistic type of thing, very light. Those are type of things that I would mainly look for. But often you can also go off of what SketchUp provides as a kind of verify or their own set of library and download them. Simplistic thing that you can do is and it's kind of obvious that I haven't tried this and pre-run this ahead of time to verify which it works the best. But you know
You're doing
what?
great.
Yeah, let me just kind of be consistent and try to download something that I can, uh, so somebody else could also download as well. So let me go ahead and pull this one up. And I don't have to edit this because, again, I can kind of configure as I would like because this is a live model, which you can just kind of change a few things to make sure it's to the size or type of sofa that you need. And if you want, you can open up this file to clean things up further. Either purge the materials, make it different scale, size, cleaning things up. You can do that. I would probably go in and purge things because it is quite big. But let's just work off what we are able to get without going into SketchUp because I want this
Hmm.
workflow to be more focused on Revit workflow. So we just didn't even bother to configure. We just hit the download and then we have just downloaded that file.
And I have a quick question on this too.
Please, yeah.
If you configure here, obviously it'll come in as you want. Can you configure it later after you've downloaded it, or is it
No, you'll have to
so you
download it
have to do
again.
it? Okay.
Yeah, so it's downloading whatever the configuration that you have
Okay. So it's
configured
not
here.
like the modifiable parameters in Revit, but it is modifiable at the warehouse.
Yeah, but good thing is you
Okay.
can preview it. You can
Yeah.
spin it around. All the kind of viewable aspect in SketchUp Web is available here, so you
Mm.
can zoom in and out, orbit, and just kind of see how hideous this sofa is. And
What?
then, yeah, and then since you have like your account and stuff, you can like it so that you can go back to it. You can kind
Yeah.
of organize the things that you typically use so that you can always go back to it if you'd like.
Yep.
So that's what I would do. But for the most simplistic type of workflow, as to here, we kind of tested this last time when we were working with Revit workflow, right? So
Hmm.
when we were looking at this, how do we import? So we went and insert, and we learned that we can link CAD, or just trying to refresh your memory here.
Yep. I
So
appreciate it.
you can go ahead and pick SketchUp file, and because of this version removal, going back to what we spoke about last week or the week before, was that you don't need to worry about versioning of SketchUp anymore. So you can go ahead and as a either import CAD or link CAD. My preference is link CAD so that you can always go back and update. That was the workflow that I have shown. So
Hmm.
let's go ahead and link, and then I have opened it, and hopefully it showed up somewhere. And maybe it showed up somewhere in the middle of the
It
plan.
did.
Do you
Right
see
by the
it?
stairs.
Yep. So it came in, it's pinned, so I have to unpin it and move it around. So that sofa did come in. Maybe let's put it there. So in 3D ortho view that I had, so it has come in even with the color, not necessarily all the flowery texture on it, but
It's still red.
it's still red. And the biggest downside when you bring things off of SketchUp, especially for some of these rounded things, for
Hmm.
tables and chairs, not as much, but for something like a sofa that is blobby, not
Yeah.
rectangular,
Cushions.
yeah, it may have the sort of triangulation or faceted faces that are going on. So those are the things to just kind of watch out for. It's not as detrimental if you have one diagonal line that is going on, but on your plan this is not so pretty. There are few ways to get around this, and my recommendation, because you don't want to have linked CAD all over your model for all of these entourages that you intend to bring into your model. So what you want to do is, instead of bringing as a link CAD, I just did it for the purpose of demonstration here. So I'm just going to undo to where I didn't import that bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually start a new family, not a project. So family here. And here's my family browser because I'm in United States. Imperial is what I'm going to use. And for something like a furniture, you can use furniture. My general preference is to use generic model because it is more widely accepted.
Hmm.
Makes almost no difference. So, but generic model is a bit more flexible in a matter that you have these pre-made families or templates that are for face base, floor
Yep.
base, whereas furniture doesn't have that. So try a few things out. My general recommendation is to use just generic model so that you can always reference it later on. But let's go with generic model for now, because then you can apply this concept to various type of things. Even, I mean, you're pushing it a little bit, but for a lighting fixture like chandelier or pendant light that you download off of 3D Warehouse, you probably want to put it in lighting fixture. So depending on what it is, you may want to put it in different case, but generic model generally fits
Yep.
within for the purpose. So I'm gonna go with the generic model without a specific host. So here I can go ahead and insert. Notice how there is no link head. So this is just a Revit family type of thing. If you know Revit family making, you know this. You cannot link CAD into your family. You can only import. So let's go ahead and import this. So once you bring it in, there's no link between this file versus, which doesn't matter because we're gonna work off of Revit anyways at that point. But you can just find this and then put it in there, and then it's gonna bring in, and the origin for this family was in that corner, and then it's gonna be pinned. So we just have to move it to a spot that you feel that it is more representative of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Again, you can actually put parameters on this because some of model elements can be kind of measured. So once you put a dimension, you can actually turn this into a parameter. So for example, if you had multiple tables and chair kind of sets made as a one family, then you can have chairs in different distance, or let's say wall hosted element, let's say it's a TV or something, then you can offset it certain distance off the wall, or have a lighting fixture, pendant light, you can control how far it comes down from the ceiling. There are additional parameters that you can put in because this 3D model object is referenceable.
Mm-hmm.
So you can apply additional, but right now for the purpose, we're just trying to find a easy way to find a representative model that you can just easily put it into Revit. A little bit of task, but so again, this shows up on 3D view. And again, if you get rid of, if you don't show the inner lines inside of Revit project side, those triangulation will not show up. But for plan purposes, you really don't want to show those type of things.
Yeah.
So you can actually go here and then not make it visible for your plan view, or change the visibility graphics off of this so that it doesn't show up on your plan, so that instead you can also just use a detail line at this point on top of this, so that on your plan view at least it just has a rectangular representation. So I can go ahead and create, and then model line, and then I can just go ahead and kind of trace this out if I really wanted to make it look cleaner, if you will. And since it's sectional, let me go ahead and, what did I just do here? Model line there, and then create. It's not accepting my shortcuts because I normally don't draw on Revit 2025. So my muscle memory is fighting against. So I have added the detail line in here. Now we just need to save this out. Let's save as family, and dialog showed up here. Desktop, we're just gonna call it sofa sectional.
Perfect.
And then save. Since we saved it, we can just put that into our main project there. And now it has shown up here. So on plan view, it doesn't show triangulation because we masked it with a detail line. Slightly better than what we did previously. And then also on 3D view, this one, it doesn't show up because I made it not visible on the model part. So let's go ahead and edit family, make sure this is visible. And then I'm just going to save it over, just like any other family that you use on Revit. Now it shows up on 3D, and then it shows up correctly on the plan view. It will show up with triangulation on the side view, but you can also control that by going double clicking in, and then you can control how it shows up on your front view or the left view, that sort of thing, so that it controls how they show up on section or elevation. So that way things are controlled. You know, if you want to be real fancy, then you can have multiple SketchUp model in here so that certain things are turned on and off depending on the parameters that you put in. So it's really limitless, but you already have a good 3D representation of what you're trying to achieve. Sofa might not have been the best example, again, because of the blobbiness of what it is. Let's go ahead and
It's
look for something simpler to use, like a tables and chairs as an example that
yeah.
we first search for. It's
I
kind of
do think
obvious.
this was a good example though of seeing like some of the difficulties on those cushions and how it can be tough to look at for a while or kind of like be heavy on the screen.
Yeah, realistically, those are the
Mhm.
challenges that you're going to face. And I'm going to mention this further later on because this can also be configured. So, configurable ones tend to have higher storage count or the memory
That makes
count.
sense.
Whereas, well, it's supposed to be really simple, right? So, let me go ahead and first download this. For example, dining chair. And then we're going to do, let's say, table. Mm, is there a dining set? Maybe
Do a dining table?
dining chair. Is that how you're supposed to spell
Yeah.
dining? Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. So you can configure to multiple
Gosh.
different kind of. It would not stop dancing on me, but
Yeah.
I wonder if you can just configure it amount of chair count you need.
Like you have 4 chairs.
I've actually never done this, so
It's kind of cool.
let's see. What are the parameters? Height. Can I set amount of
Yeah.
chairs?
Yeah. Number of chairs along width.
Okay. I want 2.
And so then you change the
Uh,
table width afterwards.
along the length, I want 0. Can I do that? Oh, cool.
Yep.
And then I can change the length, shorten it. Okay, here's like typical, I guess, restaurant tables
Yeah.
and chair set, right? So I configured it. I'm going to download it. Dining table set. Okay, good place to start. All right, so we're going to go to Revit side. Forget this sofa set we made. I'm going to close that. I'm going to start a new family. For the sake of argument, why don't we do it off of furniture? Furniture. I think furniture will be the most appropriate thing to use. So,
Yeah.
was this the one? Dining
Yep.
table set? Okay. So here, much less triangulation, but triangulation is still happening. And I'm going to touch on that a little later. But I really like the fact that it came in and using the same origin so that we can just place it in the center. And again, if you really want, then on the floor plan view, you can just mask it with a rectangle and just turn this off on the plan and
Mm-hmm.
all of these views so that it doesn't show up incorrectly on your view. And again, you can also control it by detail level, which is kind of benefit. So for coarse level, you just show the detail lines only. And then on medium or fine, you actually show the model so that you control that sort of visibility on your model and you can filter that on your project side as well. Again,
That's cool.
the details, right, of control, but it gives you that amount of control since you're in the Revit family realm. But for the purpose, let's go ahead and save because I can't really, well, I can because I don't want to give family to. So I'm just trying to save this out. So let's save as family, and then I'm just going to say dining table set. I thought it always had double N, but again, I
Nope.
guess not. My English. Save. All right. So let's go ahead and do that and putting it into townhome. Now it just
That's
brings it in
great.
just like that. I didn't have to look hard and it didn't have all the unnecessary information about like a website link and model name. Now that's gonna all like schedule into my schedule that I'm gonna put it
Yep.
in. No other junks, just clean thing that came up. Again, you can go into the family and then let's see. Here you can clean things up. So in the object styles, sorry, I believe the materials. So in the materials dialog, there are some additional materials that came in because this is a third-party material that is coming in. You can purge those things and they will go away. So for example, if this was a shaded thing, that brown color is showing up from the model that you have imported in. So let's actually find which one that is. It might have been like the earth. Earth feels a little weird. Dining table material. There it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. I could clean that up if I really wanted to, so that it doesn't show up on your model. If I really wanted to do that, but so a bit further kind of purging or tweaking is possible just on the Revit side, because notice I haven't opened up SketchUp at all. I didn't need license for it. If you're just needing a entourage or a furniture, you can just use this workflow.
Yep.
So that's one thing. Before I move on too far, I also wanted to do visual graphics. So it's already in there. So let's go here, ortho view. And why is that table not showing up on my ortho view? Do you have any idea?
Did you turn it off?
In here? No. Or is my furniture off? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that furniture is showing up. But if you're bothered by this triangulation line, I believe what you can do is you can turn off show edges. And then those triangulation could go away on your 3D view. Again, I kind of like seeing the edges. I'm kind of stickler for that. You've heard me say it before, so I wouldn't want to remove it. But if you just gotta get things done and you just needed some representation of what that, I mean, it was really simple to do this, whereas it would have been a lot harder to find something either from the other websites, or you do have Load Autodesk family. Have you used this before?
No, I have not. I don't think so.
Although this is not the perfect library, but sometimes you can find some things in here that are okay to use. And I have no idea why this is all going wonky, but chair.
Oh,
not a lot of chairs, but
no,
you
but
could use some of this.
Yeah.
And they are relatively clean and they don't have manufacturer junks or additional parameters that are too much. But
elliptical chair is cracking me up.
yeah, but they have limited selection, let's put it that way. And desk. So you could use this, and the desk that you were finding was a variant in here. And sometimes those may just be good enough. But again, things are a bit more available on 3D Warehouse side, and they may look just good enough on your 3D views as well. So those I wanted to say. Now, if you own SketchUp license and able to open that up, even as like a web version, there are a few more things that you can do on top of what we were able to achieve relatively quickly. So let's go back in here, first of all. Here. And then what we're going to do is, well, since this is all imported, we have to re-import after we have edited on SketchUp side. Let's go ahead and I'm going to open up my SketchUp side, and I'm just going to open up that model that we had saved. So here, I'm just going to open up this one. One thing that I do want to mention is, why are we seeing, this is a question to you.
Yeah.
Why are we seeing triangulation where you don't see triangulation here? What would be your first guess? Sorry for putting you on the spot, but I want other people to think about it a little bit too.
Yeah. No, and that was you you clicked it, and I was like, wait, where's the line?
Yeah, because this is not blobby, right? So far, I get
Yeah,
it. But this one,
no,
why?
yeah, because the only thing I see are the legs that are rounded.
Yeah.
Is there an issue with the face that we're not seeing? Is it underneath or something like that?
So I just unhid all the hidden
Whoa.
lines. Excuse me.
Why do the hidden lines have a little triangle?
Because this is the configurable live model, it needs to
Ah,
be able to stretch.
yep.
Therefore, I think SketchUp is putting the triangles on. So that means actually, if you were to go ahead and really find something that is really, really simple from other people who's not configurable or live SketchUp model
Yeah.
that are configurable, you should not see those type of triangulation. So for example, I'm gonna guess that this is not gonna have triangulation because it's really simplistic thing that is not blobby.
Yeah.
Again, we could change this. So there is, and again, we've done a bunch of extensions, SketchUp tips and tricks. I probably did mention, I can't recall whether I did or not, but on their cleanup, there is merge faces. And again, I have the shortcut of Shift W if you follow along on some of the shows that I have done before. If you do merge faces, and I'm going to do this in quick selection. So I'm going to select this bit, the top
Mm-hmm.
panel of this, and then do cleanup. I would use shortcut, but for visual representation, I'm just clicking it. And you see how that triangle just went away? So wherever it's possible to merge the face and remove the triangle, it is going to do that. I'm going to do that from outside and then actually run the same thing, which is Shift W on my custom shortcut. If I do that, it
Huh.
just simply wipes it away. And also, I'm going to run a purge tool, which is Shift 0 on my custom shortcut, and get rid of any other
Mm-hmm.
materials or things that I am not currently using. So here are simple 4 materials that are coming in here. And that's all I have. From here, let's see if it reduces the file size. Okay, so this is cleaned. Let's
That's
see
awesome.
what it says on the uh, size. So this one is cleaned. Still 5 meg. I'm not sure why that is so high.
Yeah.
My guess is that because this is a live component, there are some aspects to this that are adding on to the component count. So that's something for me to figure out later on. But again,
Yeah, and come back to us with the answer.
yes. Yeah, but my guess is that if this was not the live component, then it should have been a lot less than what we got because it really isn't much of geometry here.
Yeah.
I wonder, though, then, if I were to start a new file and put this in here, if that's going to be that high again. And again, I'm going to try to use the same origin. Here's a little tip. Hit K once if you can't see the origin, and then go here, and it'll just snap right there.
Huh.
Just picking up SketchUp tricks on meant to be Revit session.
Yeah.
Here. So that one there, I don't know what I just did there. Here, and then because I have K enabled, there, I can snap on that origin. So everything is arranged on the
Centered.
centered,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna save this over. So I did save as, which is Control Shift S custom shortcut. My muscle memory, yes. And then let's see how big that is. Had I close it? All right, desktop for you. Still 3 megs. It's
But that went
smaller.
down.
That
Yeah.
that went down. but not sure where. I wonder if it's a material that is really big. The image sometimes can be kind of big.
That would make sense.
How about this one to have mapping on it? No, it doesn't. Okay, we only got two materials. Purge once more and save over it. And would that be big? Oh, it's smaller. All right, 2 meg. We were
You
able
did
to go
work.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, nicely
So
done.
maybe I can study further how to bring that down even further and strip it out. But that's how much we were able to get down to. And then let's go back to the Revit side and replace this guy.
Yep.
Delete it after unpinning it. And then insert. We're going to import the desktop side. And by the way, if any of you are watching, I see a few of you there. If you have any questions, I'm free to answer your questions. So let me know if you have any. And for you too, Mackenzie.
Yeah.
Clean. So we brought this in the exact same spot as we intended. Maybe we need to clean this bit up, or is
I know.
that
I'm
gonna
wondering
show
because
up? No, it's not gonna show. So that is a good representation. It's pretty clean. Anyone can
yep.
tell this is a chair, and anyone can tell this is sort of the table set. And then I just need to update that on my file. I don't need to save over it, but it is going to replace. And you can see how it just cleaned everything up there.
Yeah, that's so nice.
And then let's do a little section there to kind of show off, right? View section, and we're gonna do a little section in here. We need to flip it. So flip it over. Oh, no, that's not how you do it.
At the top.
At the top, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah,
No, you're good.
yeah, little brain freeze right there.
Uh-huh.
And
Things
then
you do all the time that just all of a sudden you can't remember.
yeah, so here again the
That's
legs
great.
were
Yeah.
somewhat rounded, so but at least the other bits are exactly as they should be. And again,
Yeah.
because these are generally snapped onto surfaces and reference planes, it is going to be able to do that. And then as default, the furnitures have the elevation from level parameter. So if you were, I don't know, have a mezzanine or a little step over your
Yeah.
floor, then you can type in some number, then it should be able to go up and down. So these are default parameters that you are able to do because everything came in as a native Revit element. So in renderings, it'll show up correctly because it has this. Again, it's not going to have reflection, no fancy material, but in 3D representation, you are going to be able to do this. And so the beauty of, again, another of this, let's do lighting. I think that's something that I struggle a lot with a lot of Revit models, finding lighting.
Yeah.
Do you want to
It's
do
tough.
sconce or pendant? Which one do you struggle the most with?
I would say pendant.
Okay, pendant. So let's
Yeah, because
do.
I think like the varying heights that it could be and
All right,
the light source.
yeah. I actually did pendant light import session all before, way before. I made a video about this
Yeah.
on my channel before, way before when this versioning still existed. So you had to back save and do all of
Yep.
this jumps to do that. But I think at one point, though, this was SketchUp brought in light.
Huh.
So I actually brought this in and did a pendant here. And I configured this one. This bit is from SketchUp, and I modeled something
Yeah.
on top of this as a lighting fixture.
That's brilliant, actually.
Something important here is you want to have light source for your rendering purposes. So seeing and being able to locate a lighting source based on the family is really, really important so that your
Yeah.
rendering shows up correctly. And that is all possible. And I even added the parameters so that you have this drop length that goes on it.
Mm-hmm.
For some of you out there, lighting source, especially pendant, it's better to model them face hosted rather than ceiling hosted because you will run into cases where you don't have ceilings and you're trying to hang it off of like a floor
Yeah.
or a roof or something like that that is not a ceiling. So
Yeah.
you're 100% better off hosting off of just a face or a level or a reference plane. I learned it the hard way. Anyways, that's why the whole thing is upside down. Anyways, but you can set different drop length, and then that will change accordingly. Unfortunately, I did not set this one correctly, so that it is also changing the
Yeah.
lighting source along with it, but I can lock it. So once I lock that, let's go back to this view here. So as I change the parameter here back to 2 feet, it's gonna drop it or it's
Yeah.
gonna drop less. Sorry, it's upside down, but and then hit the lighting source in the correct spot. So I can bring that back in to my model here or project, and then that will now be it will have the lighting instance shown in there.
That's awesome.
Lighting fixture, and then lighting source. If I were to show that, it's gonna be in there so that it is able to render away. Now, how did I do that? So I'm not gonna go into the details of the drop length and all of that, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
demonstrate the fact that you can actually assign a parameters to it that is workable, such as drop length for a pendant. Uh, but because this is hosted on the ceiling, or sorry, hosted on a face, you are able to put this on different places and it behaves just like how Revit family should with the little
Yeah. That's so
flip.
awesome.
And also, let's see, because it's face based, am I really? Hmm, am I testing this too far? Yeah, so you can host it off of wall as well.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, that's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So I'm saying yes, it is more
Yeah.
flexible. So you can have scones, for example, and have it basically show up on your walls throughout your
Yeah.
project. So that's I just wanted to demonstrate that quickly.
That's actually really smart.
Yeah, so you could do that. Thank you. I was hunting for that. Families, and then we're gonna do. Unfortunately, lighting fixture. Did they fix this? They only have wall base and a ceiling base. That's a big problem. So I would just go start with lighting fixture type here, and then let's see. Let's go ahead and download something simple. I don't know, off of the whim here. I like that one.
Yeah.
No, is it a picture? Good thing
Yeah.
is SketchUp is able to show you. Sometimes people have the face me kind of thing, and oh, it's not a
Hmm.
picture. Okay, good. That's a totally valid thing. Okay, so we tested it and we looked around. We're just gonna download that. How big was this? Oh, it's relatively small too. Okay, good. And then here, import the CAD. And then, was this pendant?
Yeah. So you didn't save anything new
Okay,
today.
all right. No. And then that came in right there. So let's go ahead and move it. Ooh, a lot of things going on here.
Yep.
I'm just going to put it in the center. Let's
Perfect.
see. And then I need to snap this. Let's see if it will pick that up. Yep, it is able. And then I can lock that. So let's see how this behaves. Save this so that we have a reasonable name. Pendant. And then we're going to go ahead and import into this view. Oh, that's not good.
New name.
Yeah, because I already had pendant. It's obvious that I
Small
haven't thought of
pendant.
this. Yep. Pendant. Uh, sorry.
Perfect.
Okay. And I want to put it in the reflected ceiling plan. And of course, it's not going to show up for whatever reason. Level
Oh,
1,
because you don't have it. Yeah.
level 2, no. And the battle for finding out where have I put this darn thing in
Because
begins.
they're not ceiling mounted.
Yeah, is that what it is? Okay. Also, one thing that I forgot is work plane base. You want to check that.
Got it. And then it will go to,
Hopefully.
okay, we're gonna find out.
Oh, that went away. Are you here? Yeah, you are here. All right. So this one, place face, uh, and that won't show up.
Huh.
I don't like that. Revit does
Where'd it go?
this always. When is it ever?
Simple.
Yes. I I will probably find out in some random places, as always. Elevation from level 0. Okay, that just goes to the floor. Again, that's because this was not made to this face hosted, but whether rather it's using this as a floor.
Oh.
So I have to
And
go
so it's probably doing it. Yeah.
so I have to do it the
Yep.
opposite way.
Uh-huh.
And the way I made it was that this base was on the floor, right?
Yeah.
And then the pendant would extend to whatever the length that I decide later on. But we have to kind of
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it the opposite way for the sake of time. So we can set this one so that, let's say 10 feet. I forget what the overall, let's measure this. It's 8 feet. What is this? Ceiling. Okay, 8 feet. So I just need to have 8 feet. So here, change that to 8 feet.
Perfect.
I wouldn't necessarily do that all the time, but
No,
for
but
for for this demonstration, yeah. So that has been put in.
awesome.
Yeah. Let's select every single thing that I had. This is a little trick again for Revit. The ones that I accidentally embedded
4.
into a different floor. Yeah, I
Oh my
just select
god.
all of that, unselect this one that I want to keep, hit delete. That way I only have one instance of that. But
Can you show us the RCP?
yes. So this one,
Perfect.
create similar work plane. Okay.
There. Look at all of them.
Yeah, did it show up on the correct spot? Yeah, it did.
Nice.
So because this is hosted there, you can just kind of snap it in place and they all kind of show up like that.
That's great.
Whether I mean, this is probably not the best shot for seeing floating pendants, but that's what you can do. And frankly, they will show up on your rendering side as well.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
good to know like how quick it can be, you know?
Yeah, and if it's like a wall hosted element, like a picture frame or something like that, you can just move it against the wall, or lighting fixture that's wall hosted, then you can just drag it around the wall and it's just going to place and snap onto the wall rather than being
Yeah.
floaty. So
Yeah.
all of that parameters are available. And again, you can go ahead and fix the materiality. If you want to make it a bit more simple by opening up on SketchUp side, you can do that. If you want to add a bit more flair so that the cone is slightly bigger, you can
Yep.
do that on SketchUp side as well.
That's
Even
great.
if you don't have a full SketchUp license, you can still change a lot of aspect on just the web version as well. So for something like that, you can actually, even if you're on a web version, you don't need fancy extensions for you to be able to go here and then just select the bottom end of that and then use a scale tool and then just stretch from center.
Perfect.
You can get job done on the fly
Yeah.
to make, I mean, it doesn't look
Make it into
very
what you
nice.
want
Yeah, but
or
at
look
least
like what you're expecting.
exactly, which will be
Yeah.
a lot more difficult on Revit side because if you were to
Yeah.
try to do this on Revit, there's a lot more thoughts and time that you need to spend in order to be able to do this. And good luck finding something is adequate. Uh, I don't know. I've never done this. Maybe there is a perfect one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm looking at here, but hopefully you can find something. Last time I went through all of this, I could not find something that I was looking for. So it's a lot better that you can just look at it in different view. If that isn't the one, then you can back out and look for all of these things and put different filters to find out which one is the most efficient size. And yeah, it really is a lot of things that you can look for in here. So 3D warehouse quickly. It is a little bit laborious for you to convert all of this into a family. But once you've done something similar that is usable, then you can also repeat that by just literally dragging it into your project file. The thing is, if it is on your desktop as a family or let's say on a folder, then you can also just drag and drop that into your project and then place it in there. So that is definitely a something that you can do, having a organized folder of tables and chairs, or
Yeah.
since you know you're going to use this again, you just save that out somewhere and then just drag and drop, is definitely something you want to be able to utilize.
Yeah.
But
Make your
again,
life easy.
yeah, if you want to further it by going through this and making sure your elevation view is a bit better representative without the triangulation on the legs, you can do that. It's just matter of spending a little more time to just kind of mask that element out. Maybe there's a smart AI later on who can do that automatically, but I don't have that ability just yet. But yeah, you can clean things up if you would like to. You can set additional instance or parameters in addition to the 3D representation that you're going to bring from SketchUp. And because we lack a good, simple library on the Revit side, you can use or utilize the vast world
Hmm.
of assets on 3D Warehouse. And again, spend some time on here. They got some fancy stuff as well. You can search for content. You can actually do picture search as well.
That's pretty cool.
So I was the other day. I was looking for what was it? Herman Miller chair, and they got some fancy chairs, right? So you
Yeah.
can search for images. This is like I think 1,300. Oh no, $2,000 or 1,900.
Pocket change.
Yes. So I can save that image onto a desktop and then go here. I can drag this. Oh, no,
Into the search bar.
I meant to drag it in here. This file format is not allowed. Oh, it's not JPEG. How about this? I don't know if this was exactly this chair, but
Yeah.
let's save it. This is my very convoluted way of converting.
That's perfect. I do that all the time. Is it
uh,
right? No. But it's
no.
quick.
Yes. You drag, drop. So
Whoa.
yeah, I just searched something. I mean,
That's really nice, actually. That would have saved me a lot of time in college.
that didn't. I didn't say Herman Miller. It picked up.
No.
It somehow figured out Herman Miller. I mean, maybe just
I mean,
expensive.
it's
It's just
iconic
listing.
chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you can search up based on your image, and actually, there you go. That was the embodied chair, and
That's awesome.
and you can just download that, and now you can make your family. Look at that. This is just 2 meg. It's probably gonna be a very triangulated blob, but
Yeah.
um, you can go ahead and import that if you'd like to. Uh, entertain me here. Yeah, there's
Hey.
there's a triangulated blob.
Yep.
I knew that, but that one comes in. Let's take that one out. Delete. And you're my new dining table set. Probably costs as much. There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You can either have a dining room
Dining table
or
or
a
a
dining
Herman
chair.
Miller chair. Which one is it gonna be? Yeah, but yeah, that's this. They're fancy kind of ways to search on 3D Warehouse,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's a whole bunch more 3D Warehouse alone aspects that we can look at. But I just wanted to mention the simple search, download, configure, and then bring that into Revit. We can
Yeah.
talk about further into 3D Warehouse in a later session because there's a whole bunch of cool features like the image search that we just did.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's deeper dive that's also necessary in there, but I just wanted to kind of show you that.
Yeah.
Any
That was really
questions
cool.
so far? No.
None for me.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
like a
wonder.
thousand just for like the future, but I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. So we kind of did a little discussion about what kind of future topics that we may be able to have. Something that comes to your mind for next week?
um, well, I'm loving this. I think that there's a lot more that we can dive into on the family side of Revit.
Okay,
I think that
for
that's
parameter
something,
type of things.
yeah, parameter building, and maybe the lighting stuff, because I know that that's something that like I'll sometimes struggle with, mainly with transferring to renderings,
Mm-hmm.
but uh, I know that that is something that I'm hugely interested in.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can do a bit more parameter applying
Hmm.
for families and kind of show you how to go about doing that in sort of simplistic way. And maybe, using some of these things to bring simplistic geometry off of 3D Warehouse and how to apply
Yeah.
parameters in sort of in more depth kind of session. There are other things that we discussed was either 2025 version of SketchUp and feature list, and we can just go down the things
Would
that,
love that.
yeah, so we can kind of pick up on that and come back to this family making on Revit side. There's also 3D Warehouse we just talked about quite a bit. And then also, there's a lot of AI stuff that's also coming up and came
Yeah.
up on just in architecture in general. So we might want to kind of touch on that just so that we are a bit more aware. And I don't know how much you're up to speed in terms of the newest technology that's
Ooh.
available. So yeah, that's also certainly something that we can look into. If
Mhm.
any of you watching on even on recording, if you have any topic suggestions for future episodes, then please do leave them down in the comment. We'll have a look, and we can certainly go for suggested topics as well. So those are some of the topics that we plan on doing. Let's see what next week becomes. But until then, this is it for this week.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.